Well, today, again, my name, well, not again, I haven't told you yet. My name is Damon Palmer. I am relatively new to Millennium, but not new to Millennium's products. I came up through the dealer network. And so I've been tasked with giving the reveal today for Ultra software version 5.0. I'll try to do the best I can here. And so hope you'll get a lot out of this. And I'm really looking forward to introducing a lot of the new things that are available in version 5.0. Let me get my mouse where it needs to be. Okay. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. I'm going to show you essentially 9 key advanced features. They're new to version 5.0. Some of you may have seen these already because we've done some field testing and things already. But essentially the 9 are the digital watchdog integration. Essentially DW's Spectrum has been integrated with Millennium. We also have a new parking management module, and that is designed to essentially prevent residents or those who don't have a proper identification to get into a parking facility. But they're also designed so that someone doesn't try to spoof the system by handing their credential off to a spouse or a visitor and trying to get their car in as well. So that system is designed to accomplish that. The visitor management module is pretty straightforward. This is basically just setting up a visitor for a temporary stay of some sort, whether that's a vendor or a resident guest or whatever, and also that it's tied into the badging module so that you can make IDs. We're also proud to introduce a new IP elevator controller, a long time coming, but it is essentially a net ECU along with a new net ECD, and I'll be explaining a little bit more about that as we get there. Also, we kind of revamped the dealer portal, and it is now the client management portal. Essentially, you're managing your clients. We're not managing dealers, right? So the idea is that the focus is really on your clients, and there's a whole bunch of new features in there, and I'm kind of excited about that one as well. The end user portal is something new as well. This essentially gives your customer, the dealer's customer, just a brief glance. It's right at this moment. It's not all that complex. Basically, they'll know what version of Ultra they're on. It'll give them options to download software if they so desire. Or maybe you will want to do it for them, and that way you have a quick way of knowing that this is the next available piece of software for them, or a firmware update, those kinds of things. And it'll tell them what they're licensed for and whether their SMA is, when it expires, or when their subscription for hosted expires, those kinds of things. And then the 2N intercom integration, that one's been a really neat one. I've worked on that personally over the last 6 to 12 months. And excited to share that to you today for those of you who haven't seen that. Also, we are putting a fence around our mobile credentials. So for some people that don't mind that they can open a door from anywhere on the planet, but there are also security situations where you don't want people opening the door, from Iceland. You want them to have them within the NFC field of your phone for security purposes. So that's something new as well. And then finally, the property management module, and that essentially is a bridge or a module that allows for resident records from the property management software to be brought over into Millennium, create a card holder and their rights, and register their fob and activate them all in one step, so that the property manager just has to enter a resident. And when that client, or when the new resident walks out, their fob's already working with your Millennium system. So that's kind of an exciting new piece as well. So let's break these out a little bit. I'll give you some highlights of each one, and then for some of these, I'll be showing you equipment and et cetera. So let's go ahead and dive in. The digital watchdog integration is one of the newer products that we have integrated. It essentially utilizes the Spectrum server that many of you have used digital watchdog. If you have, then you'll be familiar with this. It basically integrates seamlessly with Ultra. If you add a camera to your digital watchdog server and then go to Millennium and push update, it'll show up there right in, and you can verify that the video is working and everything. So it's very easy to link the two together. Also, it allows for the integration of multiple Spectrum instances. So if you have a large installation, or if you have 2 small ones that aren't even on the same site, As long as we're able to get to their IP addresses, then you can have as many instances as you have licenses for, and Ultra can handle an unlimited number of those, up to total bandwidth, obviously, for the site. In essence, the linkage is from a camera to a door, and I'll walk you through that. So I'm going to leave that link there, verbiage, until I actually show it to you. And essentially, what I thought was strong about this was that you're able to have a pre-recording, the event itself, and then post-recording all in one video clip, and it adds it directly into the Millennium audit log line. So that way you have that, whether it happens at 2 a.m. or it just happened 5 minutes ago, you'll be able to check the video clip of what just happened in that door. But also, you can also use the video feed live in the map function, and I'll show you that as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to switch my share here, so bear with me. And we're going to go to Digital Watchdog. So essentially, for those of you who are familiar with Digital Watchdog, you can see here that this is the typical Spectrum screen. And in essence, there's a couple of cameras I have on here, just 2 of which are active cameras. And I've just dragged them off onto this screen so you can kind of get a feel for it. I have on the left is an Axis camera. And on the right, I have a video camera that's NDI based, for any of you who are familiar with the NDI protocols. So it doesn't have to be necessarily on VIF, and it doesn't necessarily have to even be a security CCTV camera. As long as Spectrum recognizes it and is able to license it, then we're in good shape. So Axis or any compatible brand of OnVIF, and then in many cases, other cameras as well. So once they're in here and you can see the picture and you're live, then what you can do is come back into Millennium. And then wait for that to go away. Under external systems, this will be a new tab for you, for those that have the camera integration and the 2N integration. And you'll come right here to the CCTV options. And essentially you'll see here that the first tab will have each of your, if you have multiple digital watchdogs, they'll all show up here on separate tabs. Basically the URL and the port number that you would normally use to access your Spectrum server, and also the username and password, and that's basically it. Click on camera synchronize if you don't have any cameras in here yet. Here I've already had the cameras brought in, so essentially the Axis camera is giving you this view, and then the other PTZ Optics is giving you this view. So this shows you that the Digital Watchdog cameras are now linked with Millennium. And then the only other thing you need to do to tie this together is just create an alarm definition. And this is under System Administration, that alarm definition. And then I'm going to just use one I've already set up, that way just for speed of time here today. So I've selected one of my doors. On the left, you can have all your doors in your system. So I've selected a door. And then I've selected a door status. In other words, what do I want this camera to actually act on? What's it going to be triggered by? And in this case, I just picked unlock to keep it simple. And then you can ignore everything in the middle. It uses all this as default. And then right here, where it says CCTV camera, you'll just pick the camera from your list of cameras and then hit save. Now, I've already done that, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick demonstration of that. So essentially, can you all see the widened camera view? Okay. And I'm going to use, so basically as I walk toward the door, it's already recording this 15 seconds like forever until something happens. So as I walk toward the door and then present my key fob, it's already recording, it's recording the event, and as I walk out of the picture, it will eventually stop when it doesn't detect any further motion. And then I can come back to my Millennium instance. And you can see right down here at the bottom, I have a new one at 211.49, and you can see that this is brighter than the other ones. And right here, there's a little camera icon. So I just click on that. and it will show you what just happened. And so you can see I'm blabbering on here until I get there. Okay, now I've arrived. Grab the key fob, and see so I haven't even hit the card reader yet, but it's already pre-recording because that is part of the programming we put into the digital watchdog. And then you can see that I walk out, and then as soon as I'm completely out and there's no more motion, then the clip ends. So in essence, I can link up any of my cameras to any of my doors, and I can bring up a video clip in line. And then also, of course, you can also go to your historical log, and then I'll just pick everything for today. And these camera clips will just continue to be part of your historical log. And as long as that clip is still on the server, still on the hard drive, wherever you're storing your video, then you can still come back to it, click on it, and it'll show you the same clip all over again. Okay? So it's a very useful feature, and I think that'll have that's really a good integration where you're able to link a video clip to each event, and especially if you're looking for an event at a busy or critical door. Now, another thing that's very helpful is what we call situational awareness. And I'm going to switch from maps to a floor map. And I just made up a basic little floor map here. And I've dropped my access camera here. You can see, just hover over it. It tells you what camera this is. And then I also have a door. And again, if you hover it over, you'll see which door that is in your system. So if I want to see what's going on at this camera, I just right-click it and click on live video. And that's what's happening with that camera right now. And the same thing with the door. I can right-click it, and all the options that I would normally have for that door are all there. And so I can, if I had a big enough map, I can actually, use the whole screen and use my site plan and drop, 10 or 12 cameras and 10 or 12 doors. So I can actually see the whole property, and I can just click from camera to camera. And if I need to be at a particular door or I need to open a door, I kind of have the whole site in mind when I'm releasing it, so I kind of know what's going on, and then I can just release a door from here. Okay? So it's a very useful function. I really like the integration. It's very smooth and seamless. And for those of you who have already been using the mapping function and alarm definitions, it'll be no big deal for you at all. So anyway, okay. Well, let's move on to the next feature, which is the parking module. And essentially, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to protect the actual parking lot. Now, when we say protect, we're really talking about making sure that we don't have too many cars parked in there, and we only have authorized cars parking in there. The system does prevent anti-passback. It basically allows only one car at a time in through the gate. Even if you're able to have a detachable credential, you still can't pass it back to somebody else and get in. And I'll demonstrate that here in just a second. Also, it allows you to have more than one vehicle. So it's not like you just have one. You can have as many as you have paid for and you have fobs for. And also, there's a full line of reporting that will be available soon. Our engineering team is working on utilization reporting, et cetera. The parking lots can also be maxed. So if there's only 64 parking spots, for example, it'll only let 64 cars in until someone goes out. So it'll actually shut down the in reader until someone leaves. So that allows you not to have to worry about someone going in and driving all the way around the parking lot, realizing it's full, and going out and then being upset. At least we'll catch them at the gate. And then also this can be tied in many different ways for revenue, for actually assigning parking spots and things like that. Maybe allocating a valet to have, let's say, 12 of your parking spots. So there's more things coming that will make this even more valuable to the property manager. Well, let's see how this actually works. So I'm going to show you essentially what I think is a very elegant solution. And I'm about 10 feet away from an 1.5-inch diagonal screen, so I'm hoping that's centered right. So this here is actually, you know what? I need the, sorry, let me change this view here. Okay, and I think that's all I'm going to get. Okay. All right, you can all see this full screen. Maybe just a quick nod. You can see this fine? Okay. This is basically this is a NetDCD2. I think it's a very elegant solution for things like a pair of gates or remote things that you might have throughout a property that you don't necessarily have either conduit, or it's in a separate building, or you have a situation where this box is going to be out by the road. The only thing, if you'll notice here, there's only 2 wires coming in the box here at the bottom. The Cat5 cable that connects you to the internet where your hosted instance would, and a power cable. And so you'll see up here where normally you would have communication and all the rest, it's all clean. All you need is power and a Cat5 cable that's connected to your LAN, which has internet services on that network. Now what I've done here is I've used 2 regular Millennium readers instead of having the 2 RFID readers that would normally be mounted above the gates, just for this demonstration. But you can see it's a very clean install. This could easily install right next to one of the operators, hardly take up any time or space, and very easy to install because everything's all on one board and in one enclosure. So very neat installation. I'm really happy with this NetDCD board. So let's see how this works. So essentially, as a car comes in, and I think if you guys can see, I'll try to put my finger roughly where it is, watch right about here, and you should see a relay light come on. Okay, so the car has come in the lot, and now they're parking, and then maybe he parks on the far side, hands the fob out, and then, now if you notice, the relay light didn't come on again. It beeped to recognize that it had the fob, but it didn't light the relay, it didn't open the gate. So I need to leave the lot, and then I can now go back, and now you see the relay's back on. So as long as that car with this fob number is in the lot and hasn't gone out the second reader, it will not let a second car in with the same fob. So essentially it prevents you from having multiple cars inside when you're using one detachable transponder. Okay. So very nice architecture, and I think very smooth and easy to use overall. Okay, let's, oops, forgot my phone. All right, let's move to the next item, which is the visitor management system. And let me hit share on that. Okay, the visitor management system is essentially, instead of controlling cars, we're controlling visitors, people, and this Millennium's particular version is also able to directly link up to the badging module. So if you are using the badging module, you can actually create a visitor and then print out an ID card, or you can use a paper label spitter like the hospitals have, and it'll actually print a black and white kind of grainy picture on a tag, and you can stick that on a shirt. So that way it's kind of linked to the visitor management module. Also, it's very easy to learn because essentially the visitor screens look almost identical to the cardholder screens. It also gives all the same functionality as a cardholder would have. So the visitor credential can be, curtailed by either a time period. So maybe it's valid only from 8 to 4. It can be date range. It can only work for a week or a date or an hour or whatever. You can also set it for a day range. Let's say you have a house cleaner and you only want them in there on a Tuesday. So if they try to come on Wednesday, it won't work. You can set that. And there are many different ways you can limit the use of that visitor, or you can expire it depending on usage or depending on date or time. In addition, we also have a blocking feature. So that if you've had a rowdy visitor in the past, you can actually block them from coming back a year later and wanting to visit again. And finally, you can also, if you're using mobile credentials, you could actually assign these in advance and send the person who's coming the token in an email ahead of time, and they'll be able to come on site and they'll be ready to go with their credential. So those are quick and easy to use. Let me give you a brief walkthrough on that. So as we go back to Millennium, back to the home screen, and then you'll see if you have visitor modules, they will show up right here by the cardholders, and you can just click on visitor. And as I mentioned, it's basically the exact same screen, except it has a visitor box and an access history so that you can kind of keep track of. So bottom line, I can go ahead and enter in whoever I want. Oops. Yep, there we go. Obviously, someone we're going to want to block later. Anyway, notice the unit number, or in the basic install, this would be the employee ID field, is already populated. Now, this is just one thing I wanted to, just for some of you who aren't as familiar with Millennium, is if you go into the settings, and then under customer settings, and then under cardholder settings, you will see that that third field, the employee ID field, comes defaulted with both of these boxes checked. The second one is a unique field. In other words, if this box is checked, you have to have a unique number for every single, whatever entity you enter into the system. You're going to need to supply something unique to save this record. If you uncheck it, you can do some neat things, such as if I have 4 people living in the same unit number, then I can put in Mary Jones, unit 401. I can put Bill Jones, unit 401. I can put Bobby Jones, 401, Sally Jones, 401. So I can create 4 different card holders, but they all have the same unit number. And that way, when I do searches, I can bring up everyone in the unit, but I can also do searches where I just want to know what happened with someone's fob, and it's not all conglomerated together in one big record. So this gives you a lot of flexibility in how you can group IDs together to allow you to search your database more completely. And again, for high rises, this is like a no-brainer. You want to change employee ID to the unit number, and so that that field is recognized for what it is, and everyone knows what's going in that field. Now, for those of you who haven't done that before, right over here is the custom fields box. And then under operator defined fields, here are all the default names on the left. And then right here, these are the names that are currently being used. Now, for most of you, this list and this list are identical because you haven't changed any of these. But if you'll notice here in the 4th field down, I've changed employee ID to unit number, because I'm going to use that box for the unit number of the person that's living there. They're not employees, so they're going to be unit numbers. And you can put whatever you want in here to be the default, and then just hit save. Now, here's where the other piece comes in for these checkboxes. When you leave the required field box unchecked, it assumes you're not going to put, in other words, it's not my required field, it's Ultra's required field. And since Ultra needs a number, it's going to provide one for you. If you check this box, you have to provide the number. So if I'm going to work in visitors or with cars in the parking lot or several other areas, I don't want to have to think up a bunch of unique IDs for visitors or cars or whatever. I want the system just to throw me a random number. And that's exactly why I unchecked that box. So if we now go back to our visitor screen, that's why this is some random number. That way I don't even have to think about it. Billy, the kid last name, I can go right to my cards. I can put in my card number, facility code. I'm just going to put some stuff in here so I can save the record and show you how to do the blocked. So basically you're going to set it up exactly how you would set up a card holder and then hit save. Okay? So now Billy the kid is in the system. He's been here for a while and now he's gone. So I'm going to click on him again. I'm going to delete him. And then I'm going to say, you know what? We really don't want Billy the kid back. So I'm going to hit new, and I'm going to put Billy on our blacklist. And left torch droppings in room. All right, you can put whatever you want in here. Oops, I got that in there twice. I guess I was watching too many Westerns lately. Okay, and I hit save. So now, 6 months later, Billy shows up again, wants to visit. And we go through the process of setting him up like normal because we're customer oriented, and that's exactly what we're looking for. And the only thing it's going to check is the first name, last name. So I'm just putting the rest of this in so the record will save the way it's supposed to save. Now instead of saving it, it says visitor was selected first and last name is on the blacklist. Okay, so it's going to prevent you from creating a new visitor named Billy the Kid, and then you can go and see why and look up Billy the Kid, and sure enough, this is what happened last time, and we really don't want him in our building. Okay, so that's basically the idea there. Okay, let's go ahead to the next item, which is going to be our IP controller. So here we have, again, the long-awaited IP, the net version of the ECU and the ECD to go along with our site controller and our door controllers. This is a true IP elevator controller. It says upgraded EDC. I still have ECD here, but it's really a net ECD now. So it's an upgraded ECD. And what that means is you now have full speed RS-485 communication. So instead of linking at the usual 4,800 baud, you're going to be at 38,400 baud, and that should greatly pick up your data communication rate in elevators, especially when you have several hundred card holders that need to be updated. So that's really a great move forward. Also, because it's an IP elevator controller, there's no need to run cabling to the ground. Most of us, when we had to do a building, we had to run an 18.4 all the way from the ground all the way to the roof, and then drop a site controller, and then drop the ECUs and everything else, and it becomes a huge nightmare with the infrastructure. But here, the way the ECU is now structured, all you need is your 120 local power and a LAN drop with the internet, and you don't need any other cables than that going downstairs. Now, you'll still need your 25 or your 50 pair or whatever to do your relays, but essentially when I show you the unit here in a minute, you'll see that very much like the net DCD2, the net ECU is very clean and very minimal in its footprint, both cabling and installation. Because the net ECD is now it's really a glorified eDCD, but it's been downgraded a little bit to be a net ECD, but it's also 10 times faster. And what I like is the 5 volt and the 12 volt voltage reader. The connections are actually in the reader area. You don't have to do a jumper over to the main board power. So that's also a nice thing when you have a reader that's a 12 volt reader only, like the new HID, Signos, etc. And because normally you would just have a 5 volt connection. So this gives you both. It's an easier installation because now the ECUs, the net ECUs, come in one enclosure. Now, if that's 16, it's one enclosure. If it's 32, it's one enclosure. If it's 48, it's one enclosure. The can gets a little bigger, but essentially all your boards remain inside the can, and the reason we do that is so it stays UL listed when it ships from the factory. So again, just like whether it's one enclosure with 116 relay board in it, or whether it's one that goes all the way now up to 80, you'll notice, instead of the usual 64. So essentially you're getting 5 ECUs now worth of relays, but it's still one enclosure, one power cord, one Cat5. So it's keeping the infrastructure very simple and all in one can. And that's basically what I just said there. So you're all going to have that together. I think this is already in place even with the legacy boards, but you can have up to 10 net ECDs can be connected to each enclosure regardless of how many relays are inside. We've also upgraded the mapping module, and I'll show you that. And then also because of we're going to be creating a live screen, and let me show you that when I get there. But essentially we're going to have a live screen which doesn't have anything else but the elevator plan on it. So you're taking maximum use of the screen, and this allows for taller buildings to have all the relays on there, and you can have more elevators stacked side by side. So essentially you can have all of your elevators, all of your release buttons all in one place. So let's see a little bit more of what that looks like, And I'm going to go ahead and switch this to $12. Okay. All right, this is the new ECU and the net ECU. And as you can see here at the top, there's essentially a ECU sitting up here at the top. For some of you that got the interim ECU, or you had a DCD board there and then you still had an ECU outside of the can, that's all been collapsed into one now. So this is an ECU sitting in right inside the can. And then here you have a smaller relay board, which holds up to 16 relays. And then here in the bottom, if you can see it behind the little reader here, is a little power supply for the 110 or 120 volt AC. So essentially, very clean architecture. You've got a Cat5 cable here for your uplink, and then you just have your internal power cables, and then you just need one cable going out for your net ECD, and this is essentially a new net ECD, and then you'll have also your relay cable going out to your operator. Now, this is a one enclosure for 16 relays. So if you have let's say 3 of these relay boards inside the enclosure, obviously the enclosure will be taller and wider, but essentially they'll all be organized nice and neat in the can, and all you're going to be running is outside cables. Everything internal will be taken care of. So the days of having a power supply on the wall, an SCU in a can, the back box, and then several ECUs mounted, and all the conduit running back and forth to be, all within code. All of that's been eliminated with just the basic architecture. So this is a great move forward, in my opinion. It'll make your installations a lot simpler, and I think it'll be a lot easier for you to understand what's actually going on, because it'll all be in one enclosure. Now, to see how this works, essentially, now I've labeled the relays here just so you can kind of see. My fob is for unit 401, so you should see 401 here drop when I present it. So essentially it will drop there. So basically just a nice, neat and clean, and obviously the net ECD and the reader will be located down in the elevator car depending on how many of those you have. So very straightforward. Let me show you some of the internal things that I think will be very helpful for you. Okay, now first let me show you the map, because I kind of like that. The mapping function has been updated, and I'm going to go ahead and change to this. I just created a basic one for this ECU. I'm only utilizing 8 of the relays instead of the full 16, but that's fine. So essentially, you can use any graphic you want. You can be a little bit creative. If you have a picture of the actual lobby of your building, so be it. If you have taller buildings, then you can use bigger screens and so on. But bottom line is, I just put my relay numbers here. I can right-click it, and I can hit Remote Unlock, and off you go. So you can basically control all of your elevator relays from one screen. Whether there are 8 or whether there are 100, it doesn't matter. So I think it's very slick. And then, as I mentioned earlier, when we're in production right now, all of the boxes for the setup of these screens, so all of the all of the left-hand nav stuff, and all of this setup at the top will all be eliminated in live view mode. And that way you'll have the entire screen to use for your image. And that way you'll be able to get the taller buildings and the wider stacks. So if you have a building with 10 stacks, you'll be able to have 10 individual rows of relays. So very functional, very easy to set up. And if I had the time, I'd show you, but it is very simple to set up. So that's that feature. And then essentially the setup is very similar to what you've seen before. The only difference is you are now going to have the elevator controller is really a site controller and an ECU kind of together. So you're going to create a site and basically, Safe Harbor Elevator, and match obviously the address just like you normally would. Same as you were setting up any other enhanced device with the port number and with the IP address. No surprises there. And then you'll also have your ECU piece, Again, very similar. You'll have a 0 because that'll be your first one in the can. And then that's pretty much it. You'll set your readers for whatever kind of readers you're using and your events and your alarms just like normal. You'll set up your floors. Basically, there's the same 8 floors that I showed you on the map. And you can set up, I haven't set up for front and rear, but you can have, again, this would be for 2 ECDs. I just have the one I showed you. And then bottom line is you'll define that elevator car. So the front reader will read 201, 301, 401, 501, for example. And then the rear one will do 202, 302, 402, 502. These are just examples. So it's essentially the same setup. There's really no surprises here. The only difference is the site is already an elevator site to start with. And so that's already been taken care of for you. Okay. So very straightforward. And then in your general mapping, go away. Okay. In your general mapping, they will show up right here in your normal mapping. So this will be your site controller here. This will be essentially your virtual ECU. And then you'll have all of your floor, and then you'll have your ECDs down here. So just straightforward, same thing that you've seen before, essentially in-house, but greatly advanced in the architecture. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which will be client management portal. Now for this one, essentially we are, again, upgrading the dealer portal. The dashboard screen and now will show you several live monitors, things that are coming to the screen that will be helpful for you to see as far as the system's health is concerned. It'll also show you some key data, which I have been asking for, which is the hosted URL right on the front screen. When does the subscription expire? And there's several other fields there that you'll see here in a minute, including a really nice dashboard on what's online and what's not online. Also, it's more of a true portal, as it will now be pulling data from different areas of your Millennium Ultra 5 installation, and it will be able to give you a snapshot then of each of those major areas. And it'll include some things like an activity summary. So for the last 24 hours, it will show you all of your, let's say, valid user reads, but it'll also show you all your invalid user reads. So you can see that in the portal, and I'll show you that when we get there. But it also has wiring diagrams and other useful things. And I don't know about you, but it's always nice to have all your wiring diagrams for all the components all in one place that you can quickly get to and just pull either a legacy DCD or a new EDCD so that your guys in the field, if you're pulling out the old one and putting a new one in, then the wiring diagram is essential to do that. Also, the portal tabs will eventually allow you to do like a quick cardholder ad or a quick modify on, a visitor or whatever. So it's almost got like some app aspects to it that will be more fully realized as we go down the road. You'll eventually be able to do more and more with that portal. All right, well, let's see what that looks like. And I'll only show you a couple things in here because there's quite a bit to actually show you in there, but not all of it is fully functioning at this time. So let me just give you a brief overview. So this is where the landing page, and essentially it'll be your client management software, and you've got sites, account, notifications. Down the road, you'll be able to sign up for newsletters and all kinds of stuff and notifications. There'll be other notifications there, like expired SMAs, things like that. Here in the account, we'll eventually be doing things like actually doing sales orders and other things that apply to a particular site. And then here is basically right now the core of the new portal. And this is kind of the updated dashboard. Now, I just showed you on my, my Millennium map that all my devices were indeed online. Now, you'll notice here that on my elevator, that some of it is not, and that's because I don't have the second ECD installed. So that's why part of it's orange. But all my sites are online, all my doors are online, and my elevator and the first ECD are online. So essentially, since I already know what this is, this means I'm good to go. It also shows right here, this is the actual hosted instance. So like, for example, here, this site's on hosted 1, this one's on test, this one's on hosted essentially 0, and this one's on the test as well. So at a glance, you can tell exactly where, where that site is on which hosted instance. And then, of course, it's got the expiration date for either your hosted subscription or your SMA, and what product is actually installed, or lots of information there. Now, if we just go ahead and click it and go in, and I'll connect to the site here. Once I go inside, this is the activity thing I was telling you about. So these are all good events, right? They're all like a greenish blue color. But so you can see there's a little red thing there. So if you float your mouse over there, so there were 3 invalid users out of 135. So probably not a major problem. This one looks to be a little bit more. There's 5 out of 388. So basically you have to make some determinations on whether you need to go investigate these. But at least it gives you a feel for how many invalids there actually are. And then possibly you can send someone to investigate why there's so many invalids on a given time frame and also on a given day. And then again, it will give you a device map very similar to the one that's inside Millennium. And again, these are just portal things. So if you're just kind of doing a client review, so if you're sitting up here under sites, you can kind of go through each site and just see how they're doing. And that's better than going through all the different URLs and trying to log in and get in looking through everything. This will give you a quick glance at what's actually out there. Also, if you have a floor map already set up like this one, I can do the same thing I can do in the portal. And I can actually go, hold on, I gotta log in. I forgot to log in. Once you log in and hit you don't have to keep doing that. And then you can go right to the camera, for example. Or you can, oh, well, that's the part we don't have done yet. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have some preliminary things here, but for right now, some of the things are starting to fall into place. Here are the wiring diagrams I talked about. So basically you can come right in here and boom, there's your wiring diagram for an ESCU. And you can go to the EDCD and so on. So I really like this. I like the idea that you can see all the wiring diagrams, legacy and new. And there will be more things that go in here. We'll have a future place here for if you're silver or platinum, you'll have your login will give you your price list, and that will be on this tab and so on. So there'll be some useful things that you can look at there. But essentially that's the basis for the revamped client portal. Okay. So let me go ahead and stop that, and let's go ahead and move on to the end user portal. And how am I doing on time? A little tight. Okay, we'll pick it up here a little bit. The end user portal is probably the least ready to go, although it's the idea is there. Essentially, the idea is that we will allow end users to gain some basic information about their system. They'll get, well, you know what? Let me go ahead and just make this simple on the end user portal, because it's probably easier just to show you than it is to hit the highlights. I'll hit the highlights actually in the site. So this is the end user portal, and essentially very similar login as the client, but essentially they'll get a one screener here. And we'll be developing and adding things to this as time goes by as well. But again, it'll show them what their server URL is, and it will give them when their SMA ends or when their subscription for hosted ends. This is the link to the latest full install of the software. That is the next newest thing for you. I'm sorry, someone's pinging me. Also, you see here that there are some updates and release notes that are available here. Hold on, I guess my screen is not showing. Let me see. Did I not share it properly?
We can't see your screen.
How about now?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Sorry about that. Apologize. Okay, so this is the end user screen. And again, here at the top, you can see that they can see that which hosted URL they're on, and then the SMA date or their subscription date. Here's some links to the version of the software. This is more for local. This particular one's more for local. So that if you're on 4.6, it's going to show you 4.7 and so on. So this is the next available install or update or release notes, whatever they need to know. Now, again, you can log into this as a dealer when you're on site, and this will give you information that you probably would like to have, including being able to do, you know, a download of an update or a full install to get, maybe they've just replaced their computer and you need to go in and reinstall them. This will get them up to the very latest version that they're entitled to at the moment, and you can just download it from here. Notice also they can put a service request in. Now, generally, they would only use this if they can't get a hold of their dealer, or they've, you know, their dealer has either gone out of business or moved on or whatever. But they can send this right to Millennium and you know, look for whatever they need, and then obviously we're going to contact the dealer of record and get them linked up there. They can also send feedback to Millennium, whatever that might be, and then below that they can see what they're licensed for, and then they can see what their optional features are. I don't know if these are live. Let me just see one that might be. Yeah, not yet. Those will be, you'll be able to actually see what these optional features are, and there'll be a nice little, like a color glossy kind of a thing, and you'll be able to tell, you know, what's included in time and attendance reports, for example. Or down here, you'll be able to see, you know, what's involved in the March network, CCTV integration, et cetera. So it'll give them some information. It also will enable them to sign up for a newsletter, and that's pretty much it. And again, this will be more fully developed as the times and weeks progress. So let me go ahead and go back to the. Okay. And then we come to the, okay, we're at 2:49. I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to be running a little tight here. Okay, the 2N intercom teleentry is fairly straightforward. I'm going to talk and run on this one just so that we try to keep this somewhat close to the hour that we're supposed to be here with. So let me go ahead and drop the share, and let me just go ahead and show you rather than talking about it. And let me get the camera going to the right place. Okay, everybody can see the unit? Okay. Again, very, very nice, very elegant unit, clean lines. It's stainless steel. It's IK10, so it can handle a hammer. The thing weighs like 3 pounds. The thing is huge as far as weight's concerned. Very sturdy, designed to hold up in weather and in vandalism. So very, very strong in that regard. Comes with an internal camera. That's optional. You can get one without it. This one comes with a touch panel. Again, that's optional. But unless you're going to have just a regular intercom situation, you're going to want the touch panel. And essentially, you can either walk up, and if you have PIN code set up, then I can just come in and hit my PIN code, and it lets me in. Okay. Or what I can do is I can look through the directory. I can pick this guy, Damon, and oh, you're not going to work right now, right? I love it. No, for some reason, hold on, let me check one thing real quick. Sorry about that. Oh, my session, did someone log in? Oh, I just got timed out, that's why. All right, hold on. The way bar, okay. Basically, just like the cameras, the 2N integration is also under external. And I'm just going to check a couple things here. Just like the camera integration, there's going to be a place where you put the server information in and then your login and your password. Okay, the intercom's been found. That's been verified. Okay, there's the video from the camera. Okay, so that should be working just fine. So you'll set it up just like you would set up the digital watchdog server. The other little twist here while I'm here, for those of you who might be wondering, how does this actually also link to a floor rather than a door? Because typically a teleentry unit just opens the door right next to the unit. But by selecting a floor here, like for example, 401, I can actually now open this floor relay as well. And then I can set the time like I would normally set on a relay for maybe something a little bit longer to give me time to get to the elevator. But this is how I would add a card holder floor. And only card holders here that have access to these relay floors in your elevators will even show up. So that helps sort down your process just a little bit. Let me see if I've gotten the unit back online here. Just one second. Back to home. And I'm just going to do a quick restart on the communicators. If you ever get into a jam, go to diagnostics and restart. That's a great place to begin. And that will reset everything. And the clock is not my friend. Okay, so everything is coming back online. All right, let me see if I'm back. Dial. Okay, now my phone is ringing. Let me drop this. Okay, so now I've answered my phone, and I would just enter, and you can see that the door has been opened. Now, if I want to open that elevator relay, the only difference is instead of just hitting 9 to open the front door for the pizza guy, and I'll come down and meet you in the lobby, is I also want to open my 401 relay. So what I'll do is I'll do the same thing. I want this visitor to come all the way to my room, okay? So here, I'm calling myself. The call comes in, and this time I'm going to put in my PIN code. And then you can't see it, but the 401 relay dropped as well, okay? So that's how you can quickly go from just opening the front door of the building, but also opening the door to the elevator. Okay, let me go ahead and move back to just so I make sure I at least talk about the last couple of items here. Okay, share and, okay. Can everybody see we're back on the Millennium outline?
Yeah, we are.
Thank you. Okay. Essentially, the NFC, and I'm going to do these real quick here. The NFC essentially is a tag that is applied to a reader or to right near a door that allows you to limit the credential, the mobile credential, to only be used near the door. And I will quickly show you how this works. And I think that'll explain pretty much everything you'd want to know anyway, because essentially it's mobile credential with a fence around it. But the idea here is that now it's applied to a door, okay? So there we go. So over here, I have a reader. And now I'm going to take my phone and I'm going to put it near the chip. It does take a couple seconds. Hopefully Hopefully the system interruption didn't cause a disconnect there. There we go. And you probably can't see it from there, so let me see if I can. But anyway, you get a little pop-up on your phone, you just click on it, and it unlocks the door. So what that, basically, the only way you'll get a pop-up is if you're within an inch or two of that NFC tag. So wherever that NFC tag is applied to either the reader or the door, then, in other words, you have to be present. The phone, your credential has to be present with the door rather than you just clicking unlock from anywhere in the world. So it basically provides a geofencing aspect. Another nice thing is if you're upgrading a site, you can just leave the readers in place. You don't have to swap them out. You can basically just apply one of these NFC tags either to the face of the reader or to the side of the reader, and it will basically supersede that reader, and you won't have to worry about a bunch of expensive connection issues. And you can just, that NFC tag becomes the reader, and then that will link back through Ultra 5.0. And that will allow you to unlock the door through Ultra 5.0 as if it was an Ultra mobile credential. Okay. And then finally is the property management module. And essentially what the property management module does is allow a property management company to use their existing software. So if they're using Yardi or if they're using, First Services Connect or some other software, essentially they can put in the residence record. You just need the usual basics: first name, last name, unit number, when it's active and when it's expiring, and then a credential number or two. Once you have that, you hit save in your, let's say, Yardi software. The Millennium Property Management module takes that information from a FTP site, and it updates, creates a cardholder record. It activates their fob and their access level to the date when it becomes active. So if they use today's date, as soon as that resident walks out, their credential's live. And that greatly cuts down on double entry, making errors by having to enter it in more than one place, getting the wrong fob number, blah, blah, blah. So it really is a great tool for the property management company, because it simplifies the number of times they need to touch the system in order to get the full features of Millennium. So this will be expanded not only for other property management companies as we bring them on. Right now we're in the final processes of working with Yardi, but we are hoping to move on to Building Link and also First Services Connect and MCI and a couple of others. So the idea there is to make the Millennium product more valuable to the property management company, and frankly, offer them a great service. I mean, it's be really nice for them to be able to just, they don't have to learn anything new. They continue to set up residents like normal, and all the stuff that they used to have to go find the Millennium computer to do is all taken off the table. So in a way, that's a really great thing to have. Okay, let's just move to questions. I'll go ahead and drop the share here, and that way we can kind of talk a little bit more face to face. And go ahead and throw out, anybody have any questions? What do you think of the product? Don't all turn off your microphone at once now.
We think it's great, Damon. We think it's awesome.
Thanks, Mary, but you're biased.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
Any other questions?
Yes. I got an echo here, but two questions. With the elevator integration, I'm just curious on the on the SMA agreements. Does that count as one, or does each floor count as one access point? How does that work with the SMAs and the number of points?
Essentially, the SMAs, it's one door per reader. So if you have, multiple ECDs for multiple readers, it's just each one of those readers goes to the door count.
So each elevator CAD basically would be
correct, unless there's two, unless you have a front and a back, and then it's two.
Okay, and one other question on the do the digital watchdog.
Yes.
Which is fine, but what are the ones you're doing? Because that's not, I mean, it's out there, but there's so many other that are much more mainstream. What are the ones you're looking to do it with?
We are going through a process of reviewing several different ones. Basically, we've done March already. We've done Milestone. There's a couple of others that are a little bit more specialized as cloud-based, et cetera, that you can find, on the website. The beauty, I think, of having the both Digital Watchdog and Milestone is that you can bring basically any camera you want through those interfaces, and you've got full integration. Like I showed you with the Axis cameras, you can bring those right through a Digital Watchdog, or you can bring them through Milestone. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to move on to, let's say, Exact Vision or some of the other brands, but Digital Watchdog just happened to be the latest one that we just finished in the last couple of months.
Okay.
So there will be, I'm just not sure what that next one might be.
Okay, but like we're using Milestone, so the Milestone will have the same integration already built in that you just showed us.
Yep, already available. Yep.
Okay.
Folks, if any of you have projects that have specific integration requirements, we'll talk about that with you. So we're pretty nimble, and we did Digital Watchdog for a specific opportunity that we're working with. So don't just be passive when it comes to what you need. Reach out and we'll consider it. So
yeah, I know. I was talking to Kathy last week. We're doing a spec right now with OpenEye, and it's like 96 cameras. She said she loved this spec because it's 96 cameras.
Yeah.
So.
Essentially, anyone who's got a really large order, you might be able to twist someone's arm in the queue. So
kind of move heaven and earth for those.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. Any other questions? Now, if you don't ask a question here today, feel free to either call the 866 number, and either Kathy or someone else or Tom Dage will be able to answer some of the questions about hardware. So we can probably get your questions answered relatively quickly. And we'll be doing this a little more often now that I'm with the company, just because it's an extra set of hands to do these kinds of things. So as new features come out, we'll be introducing them. And also, I hope to be doing some training, with actual hands-on with the equipment, because now with all the technology that's been available through the pandemic, we're able to, really do a lot more now. So we are hoping to do more of these seminars in the future.
So what exactly is your position with the company?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What exactly is your position?
I am a relational manager. So essentially, I handle relations between, the dealer network and particular dealers and named accounts, national accounts. But I also help out a little bit with product development. I know they don't want me to say that, but I'm also part of because I come with 11 years of dealer experience, helping to formulate some of the products and like these presentations, making them, I hope, a little bit more useful both to dealers and to customers, so that I show you some of the innards of, how does this module work and things like that. So I'm hoping to bring a better relationship between the factory and the field, so that we're actually getting products that you're looking for, as well as being able to, fix and modify things that we can, facilitate a conduit of making the product better for our dealers. We can't just continue, and not that we've been doing it, we just can't be of a mindset where, okay, here's the product, now you go sell it. No, we want the dealers and our customers to be the prime drivers of new features and why we go to the next level, right? And that's why there's been such a strong push on getting our architecture all brought forward to the faster speeds, the same architecture, and it's really a lot cleaner, easier to install, easier to maintain. So all these things are really coming out of dealer comments and dealer questions, but also like, when are we going to get this feature kind of a thing? And that's the other beauty of Millennium, is that you send me something and say, hey, it'd be really nice if this screen did X. And I go, okay, let me see what I can do, and I'll send it in, and maybe in the next iteration or maybe the third one down the road. But generally those kinds of features eventually make it into the software. So that's kind of my role, is to help facilitate those kinds of changes. Not that I can get everything pushed through, but I'm going to try real hard.
Okay, there's a question come in. Looks like Adolfo asked it. I had the same question too in regards to parking module.
Yes, sir.
Are you, when the parking lot has reached capacity, does the system have the ability to, for example, output it or trigger an output, for example, to tie to a lot full sign? Or
We can attach a when the alarm comes up that says the lot's full. We are able to tie that to a notification. Yes, basically you're just going to be creating an alarm event. Yes.
But could that trigger an actual output, a relay output?
Yes.
For example, the DCD.
Yes, you can do that with all the alarms set up. Yes.
No, but I think what he's asking is, can you keep count? Let's say if you have 500 spaces, can you keep count how many cars have come through the gate and know when it's full and automatically trigger it? I think that's what he's doing.
Oh, that's a separate question. I was specifically asking, like, the 50th car has pulled in, all the parking spots are full.
Right.
Can a relay output be triggered so we could tie it to a lot full sign? So everybody could physically.
I don't see why not. We can trigger any kind of a relay. So the question would be whether the relay is connected to, like a garage sign that has, let's say, a stop sign, or red, goes from green to red, or it actually says lot full or whatever. Yeah, that's as far as notification and relay. I know that can be done. I'm not sure if it's already set up, but I know it can be done.
Can the amount of parking spots be manipulated manually?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just real quickly, it's a very basic system in regard to that. So I didn't get a chance to. I wanted to show you all a whole bunch more, but the hour is short. Right here under parking, you actually create a parking lot, and you can tell it how many spots your parking lot actually contains. And it's just a up-down thing, So you can change it to be whatever you want. But it's hard and fast. If it's 64, it's 64. It's going to read 64 net ins and outs. And once it hits 65, it's not going to let the next car in.
No, what I'm getting at it, Damon, let's say the system thinks that there's 25 cars out there, but a guard comes out and only sees 24, or somebody didn't check out properly. Can you adjust the account of cars that are parked inside?
I hear you. I'm not sure on that. The worst case is you could just take a fob and hit the gate, the out gate, the exit gate, until the number comes down to what it needs to be. That would be the easy workaround, if you follow me. But that's a good point. That's something we probably ought to be able to do. Thank you. I'll make a note of that for our engineer. And there was another question that was the second question, Ruben, you said someone was asking another question that was closely related. I could barely hear him.
You just answered it with the count.
Okay, there you go. Okay, any other questions?
So we can set up one-on-ones if we need to dive deep on any one thing, so people can reach out and do that with us. So that
okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What is the barrier for adding PoE to the EDCD and or to the net EDCD?
I'll take that question, Damon.
Go right ahead.
Okay, we have on our units, we have an adapter that's a PoE adapter. So we purchase and have tested out 2 types of adapters, and you can add the adapter. We sell it already tested from the office here. That's the PoE. And if you'd like to test them out, we can send you one in the field. We can give you one for demo for testing. You just have to let us know.
Yeah, and believe me, I'm a huge proponent of PoE, but the more I dig into Millennium, the less I want to use PoE, only because once you add in another power source or another type of a power source, then in other words, the ECU box still needs to be powered by 120. So if you're going to start powering individual boards, once you get to a PoE, you need another outlet. You follow me? So it's just one of those things where I like it like neat and clean. Also, PoEs get bollocksed from time to time. So it's just an extra thing that you have to worry about as far as diagnostics are concerned. But as far as the beauty of PoE, like I said, half of the things I have plugged in here in my lab are PoE, so I get it. But sometimes it's actually cleaner and more reliable just to use 12-volt supplied by, a line conditioned, power supply. Plus you can do several devices. You can do that with the PoE as well. But yeah, if you've got a good PoE, I guess that would be fine. But then you'd have to buy a converter for each one. So, maybe the cost would be there, maybe it wouldn't.
Yeah, the challenge we have is that our specifications require everything to be in pipe. So as you can imagine, it gets very expensive to bring 12 volt to a door if I have to bring it all in pipe, as opposed to if I could use PoE, our specifications don't require us to put it in pipe.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I agree. Yeah, we have the little converters, and they should work just fine. Of course, they have the same limitations, as regular Cat 5, but you can use repeaters and things like that. But yeah, that should work just fine.
Tony, this is Kathy, and I think we made one for demo for you, but I'll get you one sent out if you'd like it. I'll talk to you after the meeting, but we have them, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we came up with a third party that we've used because we had an application where we needed to use a net EDCD, and yet the only way they wanted it on a desktop. In other words,
Yes, I remember.
Not because of access, but because of COVID. They wanted to make sure the person was clear for COVID. And so we used a third-party control board to create that condition because we could get PoE to the desk, but we couldn't, pipe to the desk, so to speak. So.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yep.
That was actually an interesting situation that Tony did for the rest of the team for tracking people. So he put up some DCDs on people on the desk, and then when people went into a certain area, they were able to check and see who was in that area. And they didn't mount it to a wall or anything. It was very nice. So I'm glad that worked out for you, Tony.
Yes, awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, hi, this is Bruce again. Just one thing everybody got to watch out, though, with this PoE is, remember, you're powering your readers and everything else also from the same power source. So if you go PoE, you got to be real careful. Start putting a lot of readers on and stuff, or big parking lot readers. They draw a lot of current.
Yeah, amen.
Plus the battery backup, you got to consider how you're going to back up power in case of power loss. It's harder to do on a PoE switch than just the 12 volt, which is already built in.
Yeah. Well, yes, agreed. But in his specific need, I think that's, we do have a solution for it. But yeah, I love PoE as well. And, but there are some downsides to it. Absolutely.
The PoE would be great just for enhanced site control, but when you start powering other stuff off, like net DCD with 2 readers or something, you could start running into
Exactly. Okay, well, it's about 3:15. I just don't want to hold people that we kind of said we would be about an hour. So if you don't mind, I really thank you all for being here. Again, we are available for you to ask us questions. And of course, as Kathy mentioned, she's going to be available. And obviously, if some of those questions will roll out to some of the rest of us, that'd be great. But I hope you learned some things, and maybe some of you are old hats at this, so maybe it wasn't also new, but I hope this was very helpful and informative, and hopefully we'll keep doing these things in the months and years ahead.
Just one more question.
You're very welcome.